И первая мысль, что война,
I first thought it was war, a direct hit with a nuclear bomb.
только атомная бомба.
The catastrophe at Chernobyl was unlike anything that had ever happened before. The nuclear reactor exploded, starting a huge fire and sending radioactive material floating over much of Europe. In the weeks and months after, teams of people known as liquidators worked around the clock to prevent further disaster. 40 years later, they still carry the scars. It's the early hours of the 26th of April, 1986. Valeriy is working at Chernobyl when the explosion happens. He's walking back to his station, not far from the reactor.
Меня как бы немного
The pressure pinned me to the floor, and then an explosive wave threw me against the wall.
и взрывной волной.
What Valeriy didn't know was a flawed safety test on reactor 4 had led to catastrophe. An engineer pressed the emergency AZ5 button, but instead of shutting down, the reactor exploded.
У нас на пульте управления
We had radiation monitors on the control panel. They went off the scale, and then they simply broke. And that's when it became clear to us. This was it. Valeriy could have run, knowing that every second spent in the radioactive heat was dangerous, possibly fatal, but he does not. He and his colleagues stay until around 8 a.m, doing everything they could to prevent another explosion. As Valeriy finishes his shift, Yevgeny is just arriving for work. He sees the sheer scale of the destruction.
The wall of the reactor building was completely gone, and the reactor itself was visible, glowing with a very bright bluish-red light. It was a catastrophe.
They got to work, sometimes passing within just 200 or 300 meters of the open reactor. Their faces burn red from the radiation.
I simply could not imagine my life without work. I really loved my work and the team I worked with. Someone had to do it.
But like so many exposed at Chernobyl, he cannot escape the impact on his health, spending months in hospital with radiation-related illnesses.
At that time, doctors did not tell us the exact diagnoses. Everything was classified.
Many of those who worked at the power plant or who helped clean up the contaminated landscape have since died. Rates of thyroid cancer in Ukraine and Belarus have spiked. A huge exclusion zone remains in place around the power plant. For Valeriy, it has been 40 years of struggle since Chernobyl. And now there is the war. Another generation of Ukrainians putting their lives at risk, this time on the battlefield.
На передовой совершают подвиги.
They perform feats there, and then they return, just like us. God willing, it will all be over soon.
Окажутся над 6 лет,